Welcome everybody. My name is Roman Kerchak. I'm the president of the NJFCC. We're having a meeting with Hunt's Photo and Video, Noah Buchanan, to talk to us a little bit about cards and a Q&A about photography. If for those of you who don't know, you can find us on YouTube as the NJFCC, but njfcc.org. We have a social media tab. You can find our meetup group. We're having a free presentation on Saturday, this Saturday, with yours truly doing a night photography program on the Milky Way. And, you know, a lot of the other meetings we have recorded. This is welcome to the new world of the NJFCC. Ellen over here is with the MASH background, is the incoming president of the Federation. But I'm going to stop this all NJFCC stuff because most of you know who we are. And I'm going to let Noah do a little brief introduction and talk about new camera gear and fast cards, right? Noah, that's what we're here to do,
we got
right?
some fast cards, new camera gear, some accessories. I got probably 5, 7, 6, 7 products here to show off and talk about and answer some questions that you guys have on anything. And yeah, should be a fun time. For those of you who are here with us right now, awesome, that's great. Thank you guys for tuning in. For those of you who are watching the recorded version, well, I'm sorry you missed out on the live one and didn't get a chance to ask any questions, but you can always email me after the fact as well if you have any questions about any of this gear that I'm going to show off tonight or any other gear that you may be interested in. For those of you who don't know me, again, my name is Noah Buchanan. I've been working for Hunt's Photo and Video now for a little over 4 years, coming up on 4.5 years this winter. Work directly with Gary Farber, who I'm sure some of you may know, typically doing events, conferences, trade shows all over the country representing Hunt's. It's been a little bit different this year, and we've been doing everything virtually on Zoom, which brings me here tonight with you guys, which I'm really excited about. So if you guys have any questions, again, we have a small group, so feel free to interrupt me. That's no problem at all. We'll probably go over things for half an hour, 25 minutes or so. Then we can jump into some Q&A, some questions, and just some conversation about different gear in the photo industry right now and what's trending and kind of where things are going. And I'll kind of leave that off as my last product that I'll talk about kind of where things are going. But let's talk about cards first, because that was kind of the main thing that I know Ellen and Roman mentioned, different types of SD cards and cards that are out there on the market. So for me, all the cameras that I've personally used over the years have always used SD cards. Now we're seeing a new card come out into the market called CF Express, which we'll see a lot of the newer higher end cameras utilizing. And those CF Express cards are kind of a size in between SD and CF. So it's kind of, if you took the two of those together and kind of smushed them together, you would have a CF Express card. And the main advantage that you're getting with those cards is speed performance. That's really the biggest thing you're going to get. Your traditional SD card is going to have anywhere from 90 to 150 megabytes per second read and write speed. That's pretty standard. You'll see that these CF Express cards now have read and write speeds of over 1,000 megabytes per second, so insanely fast. This is to keep up with mainly the video performance that these cameras can do in 4K and 8K recording, to keep up with all those files being processed through, but also for sports and wildlife photographers doing bursts, that faster frames per second, or the faster megabytes per second, I should say, is really going to help you not fill up your buffer and lag your camera down from writing cards onto the memory itself. And then also when you're uploading images, it'll be faster as well. But now with SD cards, we kind of have two variants, UHS-1 and UHS-2. I have one here that's unopened that I just want to talk about, and then I'll show just kind of the difference between the two of them in a second. But this is a Lexar card, and let me see if I can pull this up to me a little bit better. There's so much reflection with these lights, but this is a 128 gigabyte UHS-2 card. I wanted to show this one off just specifically because we bought these in at a great deal. So if your camera is UHS-2 compatible, and if you're not sure one way or another, I'd be happy to let you know. Some cameras do not actually work with these UHS-2 cards. With these UHS-2 cards, you're going to get faster read and write speed. This one here is 250 megabytes per second, whereas a UHS-1 card is generally, again, around 100 to 150, kind of being an average for a UHS-1. So these are about twice the speed, but the same form factor, the same size, but not all cameras out there will actually take advantage of the faster performance that these cards will give. And the main difference between the two, I'm going to see if I can show it off if you can see it. I have two SD cards here in front of me. So a UHS-1 card is going to have one row of terminals, which I apologize for my virtual background. There we go. It's going to have one row of terminals, which you can see there on the top. With the UHS-2 card, you're going to have two rows of terminals, which improves the speed of the cards themselves. So you're going to have a second row down along the bottom, which indicates it's a UHS-2 memory card. So this one I have here is a SanDisk and a Delkin, and then I also have a Lexar. So these come in all different brands. I use a little bit of all of them. I have a SanDisk and Delkin that I've been using. This Lexar one I just picked up. They all are very comparable. Some people like some brands over others. I haven't had any personal issues with cards failing or anything like that from any brands, but I know people do have their personal preferences, but I don't really think there's one brand that's better than another when it comes to memory. But again, you do have the differentiation between UHS-1 and UHS-2 if you want something that's going to be a little bit faster speed. The camera that I have, which I'll talk about in a little bit, does take advantage of those UHS-2 cards. So I will use those when possible, especially if I'm shooting any wildlife or sports or any fast moving subjects where I'm doing a burst. That UHS-2 card will really come in handy. So those are kind of the main cards that we're looking at nowadays. CF cards have kind of gone away. There hasn't been any new cameras that have come out into the market using a CF card in quite some time now. So unless you're picking up a used camera or you're still using a camera that has a CF Express card slot in it, those just aren't as common anymore. So you're not seeing those cards really out on the market nearly as much. You can definitely still get them, but they are a little bit pricier now, especially when comparing them to SD cards. They can be a little bit pricier, and SD cards now have kind of surpassed the speeds of CF cards. At one point, CF cards were all faster than SD, but now we're at a point with this SD card technology where they've gotten faster than CF cards, and those big bulky CF cards just aren't as common anymore. So really what we're seeing now for the main card types are either SD or CF Express, which are the kind of in between the two, but much faster and a decent amount more expensive. You'll see those in the new cameras like the EOS R5, R6, Nikon Z6, Z7 Mark II. Some of those cameras will actually have those CF Express cards built into them, so you can use that, and SD as well. So you'll see a mix of both out there on the market.
Hey,
So,
Noah, can I interrupt for a second?
sure, yeah.
Yeah, so just to let people know that we know that the SD cards now come in a lot of read and write speeds. I guess what I'm, you're going to give them your email, right? At the end of the program, you'll put it in the chat or something like that, that we can get it so everybody can do it.
Of course.
I've put it out in meetings. But as you were talking, even all SD cards, even UH whatever 2 are not created equal, because when I used the Sony A9 a couple of years back, I had you guys send me a couple of Sony cards that are 400 megabyte per second cards.
Yep.
So is that what dictates the price on these cards? How fast they can read and write? Is that basically the difference between Lexar? I've used a ton of Delkin cards. Mm-hmm. Is that what really dictates the difference in the price?
That's really the biggest thing, is the speed. Obviously, different sizes are going to be more expensive as you go up, but similar sizes from different brands are going to be relatively around the same price point. Really what dictates the higher price is the faster read and write speed on these cards, which is why the CF Express cards that are 1500 megabytes per second read and write at on some of them are $200, $300, $400, $500 just for one memory card, because of the speed and the processor inside that card. Is just so much faster than what these SD cards are capable of. So yes, you typically, the faster the SD card that you buy, the more expensive it's going to be. For instance, I wanted to show off this Lexar one because we bought a closeout on these. Again, these are 128 to 50 megabytes per second. Again, UHS-2, so they won't work with every single camera out there that is SD compatible. It has to be UHS-2 SD compatible. And again, if you don't know, either ask right now, or you can ask later, or send me an email. Happy to let you know. But these are on sale for, I think, like under $40. We have these on sale for right now. Typically, this card would be upwards of $80, $90, but we bought a huge closeout of these, so we brought in a ton of them. Once they're gone, they'll be gone, but we still have a couple hundred left. So if your card or if your camera is UHS-2 compatible, this is a great gift for yourself or for somebody else at a really good price point. So that's why I wanted to show off that specific one.
No, I have a question also.
Sure, of course.
About the CF Express cards.
Mm-hmm.
I have a Nikon D500 and a D850, and I've been using XQD cards.
Yeah.
And they're supposed to, Nikon is supposed to release the long-awaited waiting over a year, almost a year, for the firmware upgrade to make the camera read CF Express cards along with XQDs. But my question is, I have money invested in the XQDs because they were very expensive too.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to take advantage of the CF Express cards because I've seen quite a few good ones come at a really good price.
Yep.
Are they backwards compatible? In other words, I can't stick a CF Express card into the camera and it would read it like an XQD.
I don't believe so. Once you do that firmware upgrade, I believe you're only going to be able to use the CF Express, which is kind of a bummer because it's the same exact size. It's physically the same looking card. It's just the software on the inside is different. It doesn't recognize it.
Oh, so I would have to go out and buy a whole new set of cards.
I believe you would, yeah. I don't think it'll be compatible with both. I could be wrong, but I know these cameras that are coming out on the market right now are not backwards compatible. I'm not sure if by doing it in a firmware upgrade, that's going to change things. But I know, like, if you were to go out and buy the new Z6 or Z7 that is CF Express compatible, it does not work with XQD cards. I don't know if that will be the same if you do it via a firmware upgrade.
Those were upgraded as well. Those were not sold that way.
But the new Mark IIs,
the two versions.
Yeah, the version 2. So even the Z6 and the Z7 original, again, it was done with a firmware upgrade. I don't think after that firmware upgrade you can use it with the XQD for whatever reason. It's kind of annoying, but I think once you update it, you can only use the newer CF Express cards.
Oh, wow, that really stinks.
Just because of the software.
So
that really stinks. I got like $2,500 invested in XQD cards.
And you don't even see really XQD cards being made anymore, just because everything is CF Express compatible. And again, I don't think they're backwards compatible. So you're not seeing those CF Express cards being made, or the XQD cards being made really anymore because CF Express has kind of just taken it over, which is annoying. Sony kind of came out with this XQD card technology. And Nikon kind of adapted it really early on with their D5 and again the D500 and the D850, and then everybody else kind of wanted to come on board with it, and for whatever reason they changed it over to CF Express. I don't know the reasoning behind that, but they changed it over to CF Express. They made it a decent amount faster and made it not compatible once you do that firmware upgrade, which is quite annoying. So it's kind of tough to say, do you want to do that firmware upgrade and then all those cards kind of go to waste, or do you not do it and just keep using those cards?
Well, I guess that's part of the thing because, now with all the firmware updates, I have a bunch of CF cards, but they were slow and old and everything else like that. They were pretty fast. And now with the 1DXs and all the new camera bodies that are coming out, all these cards are really now you know, I hate to say it, but what you mentioned for the price for that card, you're talking about, you know, your 4 years with Hunts, Noah. I bought a 512 megabyte card, megabyte
CF,
card
right?
for
CF.
200 plus bucks
Yeah.
way back when. So memory's gotten cheaper. It's definitely
It
gotten
has.
faster. It sucks to throw out cards. It really does. You know, you know, nobody wants to do that and say, okay, give them away as college students or high school students. Give them away like candy, and you know,
Yeah.
because the reality is the cards are. When I had the A9 and I got that 400 time read write speed, and you know what is it, 40 frames per second on the A9?
Yeah,
And
something crazy.
you know, taking 400 pictures of the floor because I'm walking around with the camera at silent shutter, didn't hear it, and it didn't fill my buffer at all.
Yeah.
You know that these cards are ridiculously fast. So are you saying they won't work for a landscape photographer?
Oh, they definitely would. You just don't really need that.
No, I mean the speed, we wouldn't want it. So if you're sitting there doing all sorts of stuff, not crazy stuff, not sports, not wildlife, you probably shouldn't do a firmware update then.
Correct. Yes, I would agree with that. If you don't need the extra speed, I don't think there's any reason to do the firmware upgrade and have to buy all new cards. Yeah, so unless you're doing sports and wildlife kind of religiously and that's all you do, you would probably see an improvement with the new cards. But otherwise, even if you're just doing it here and there, I mean, the 400, 500 megabytes per second on the XQD cards is still very fast and can keep up with most things. Really, that extra speed performance is for video capabilities, for 4K recording, because that just eats up so much frame rates, especially if you're doing 4K at 60 frames per second. Again, it's 60 frames that it's processing every second onto that card, and that is a lot of processing power it needs to do that. So the faster the card, the better it's going to perform, less chance for dropped frames in doing video. So that's really the biggest thing, I think, or the biggest reason that I think that they have introduced the CF Express cards, is for people doing video now, they need the faster processing cards.
Yeah, I'd probably do the upgrade in my D500 and leave the 850 alone.
Yeah.
Well, so Natalie, right, if you do mostly wildlife photography, the bottom line is you don't need more than those original cards because you're not doing the video. And I guess that's what Noah was saying. This is more for video people, that it's going to bog down the memory if you don't have this card. Whereas a wildlife photographer at the 400, 250 megabytes per second.
Yeah, it's still very
not going to bog down your card.
I can't say that my camera chokes too often.
Yeah, so
the XQD card.
You can use them until Nikon's next generation, and then you'll have to switch.
No, is any of those cameras compatible with that that other SD card, the
UHS-2? I believe both your D500 and D850 are both UHS-2 compatible in the other slot. So yeah, you can use that card in them, and that'll be a nice kind of addition to the XQD cards that you have. So both of those cameras are UHS-2 compatible.
Thanks.
Yeah, of course. So I think that's a good kind of summary on memory cards. I know Ellen talked about ball heads a little bit and kind of the differences between ball heads. So I'll show the one that I personally use and then another one that I like, and then just talk about that for a little bit. So the one that I personally use is a head made by Acratech. This is their ultimate ball head. If anybody knows Mike Moats, this is kind of his favorite ball head that he uses. I don't think he uses the one with the lever release. I like the lever release personally, just because it's so quick on and off. But this is a ball head made by Acratech, kind of very different looking from your standard ball head. It's kind of all machined out. It has this big kind of sideways cutout here, which allows this to really have a lot of freedom and a lot of movement, especially if you're shooting straight down. So it's really designed for macro. I use it a lot for landscape and it works okay, but really the limitation you have is, again, you have a lot of freedom on this side, but you can't drop it down on the other side. So you would have to rotate it this way if you wanted to drop it down. So it's a little bit more kind of cumbersome. I picked this up used at a really good deal, which is why I've been using it. They are a little bit pricier, but the build quality on these is incredible. They have a lifetime warranty. They're made in the US, out of California. I know the owner very well. We work with him on a regular basis. They have other versions besides this one. So if you're doing panoramic photography, they have a panoramic head, which is super popular. If you're doing just more landscape-oriented photography, their GXP ball head would probably even be more popular than this. This is really, again, designed for more kind of macro work, but you can use it for anything. It does just work really nice for macro. And this one, again, does have that lever release. So I can just pop this in and unlock it. Unlike some ball heads, which will have a knob, which I'll show you in a second. This one does have a lever release. And this is Arca Swiss compatible. Unless you're using a Manfrotto tripod or some really kind of cheap, like a Slick or some really like Walmart oriented tripod, you're probably going to have an Arca Swiss compatible plate. Manfrotto is really the only kind of major company right now still producing something other than Arca Swiss. Arca Swiss is kind of the standard now across the board that you'll find. And I think if you're going to be in the market for a new tripod head, definitely look for something that's Arca Swiss. Sure, Manfrotto makes good products, but the main reason that I like Arca Swiss is because you can use it with an L bracket. And I'll show that off on my camera in a minute. But the capability of using an L bracket, especially doing any macro or landscape photography, is huge. It's something that never leaves my camera, and I always have a plate on my camera at all times. I don't have to worry about losing a tripod plate or forgetting it anywhere. It's always on my camera. And with these Arca Swiss plates, they're just more universal too. So you'll find more accessories that are Arca Swiss compatible. So there's just more options out there for Arca Swiss. So this is kind of the way the industry is shifting, pretty much besides Manfrotto, still sticking with their RC2 plate, which is very different than Arca Swiss, but still popular amongst many people. So this is the personal head that I use. This is an Acrotech head, but this can be a little bit pricier. A really good alternative to Acrotech that I like a lot is Enduro. This is one of their larger heads. This is their BHL3S. This is their larger 3 series head. Again, it's pretty big and pretty bulky, but this will support up to like 60 pounds. And this is more of your standard ball head. Again, you're going to have that full casing around the outside. You're going to have that ball rested on the inside. Again, this one is Arca Swiss as well, but instead of that lever release, you have a knob release now, which you can tighten and loosen. Just a different style, a little bit more effort to get it on and off, which is why I like the lever. It's very quick action, but it's more of a personal preference.
That's the one I use, Noah.
What'd you say?
That's the one I use. That's
this one right here. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah. So Enduro is really great. I probably recommend Enduro for their tripods and their heads more than anybody else. I think the price point to the build quality of them is really the best out there. Sure, they're a little bit pricier just in general, but compared to something like a Gitzo or a Really Right Stuff, they're not that expensive. And I'd say they're on par with the quality of those at about sometimes half the price point. Their tripods are great, all carbon fiber. They come in different sizes and different leg lengths, and they also make really nice ball heads as well. Again, are all Arca Swiss compatible, and these are really nice. But there are a lot of different ball heads out there on the market. Most of them that you will find will be Arca Swiss compatible, especially if you're somebody who uses like a really big telephoto lens. A lot of those lenses now have the Arca Swiss plate built into the tripod foot. I know Tamron has it. I think Sigma has some lenses that have that built into it. So you will find that some of those bigger telephoto lenses now will have an Arca Swiss plate built into the tripod foot itself. So you can very quickly just drop it right into the tripod head you have, and you're set to go. So those are just two separate ball heads that I wanted to show off. There are other head options out there, like a 3-way head that's going to have 3 separate arms to adjust the panning, the left and right movements, the up and down and side to side. You can adjust those all independently, where a ball head, you can adjust everything all at once. So ball heads are a little bit quicker. 3-way pan tilt heads are going to be a little bit more precise. So it really depends on what kind of work that you're going to do. I would say ball heads in general are more popular. There's a lot more options out there just because of the versatility of them. And Arca Swiss is definitely something that I always recommend when looking for a new ball head. Not that Manfrotto doesn't make good products. I think just the compatibility of Arca Swiss now is really nice to have when it comes to photography equipment. There's a lot of other companies out there making Arca Swiss compatible accessories, especially L brackets, which I'll come back to at the end. But that was a little bit about ball heads. A couple other things I want to show off. Filter kits. And filters in general is something that Ellen mentioned. So I use this filter kit from Benro that I've been using for a couple of years now. This one's really nice because it comes in this pouch. Let me open this up here. Has all the accessories inside. I have just a solid ND filter in here that I use if I don't want to bring out my full filter kit. But with this filter kit, again, you're going to have the ring where you can put in drop-in filters, which I will showcase in a minute. And this comes with, again, this nice little carrying pouch with all your filters in here. I have some different graduated filters. If I can hold it at an angle, you may see it better, but some different graduated filters in here. I have a couple solid ND filters as well. Let's see here. Yeah, so I have, this is a solid 4-stop ND. So this is a full filter system, which comes with different size filters that I use relatively often. Something that's definitely going to be more popular for a landscape photographer. If you're doing wildlife and sports and action, probably not as popular. But for doing landscape work or even macro photography in some instances, a polarizer can definitely come in handy. An ND filter can come in handy in some cases as well. I really like this kit from Benro because it all comes in this nice one little pouch. It's kind of a harder outer shell, so it's pretty durable. I can store in just a solid ND filter in here if I don't want to worry about using the whole system. A lot of times I'll just use this solid ND filter. This is a 6-stop ND, which is kind of a mid-grade, kind of a middle-of-the-road ND filter where it's not super dark, but also not bright enough to really do much. So I like a 6-stop for a lot of the landscape work that I do. And then the filter holder, again, which will allow you to drop in those square filters. And then there's another adapter in here, which will actually allow you to mount it onto your camera and attach those filters all together to work as an entire system. So this is a filter kit that I like from Benro. On top of just a filter kit, if you don't need it to be that extensive, you can just buy circular filters, whether they be ND or circular polarizers. They have both options out there, very competitive when it comes to pricing. Benro actually bought the View filters. So VU used to be the name of the filter company. And then Benro did end up buying them and doing a lot of good things. If you're somebody who has an ultra wide angle lens that has a spherical front element, they most likely have a filter holder for that as well, because you can't put on thread-on filters for those large spherical front element lenses. So they have some adapters for that. So there's a lot of different options that they have out there. I like that with Benro because there's just a lot of options out there for whatever lens that you may use, and they're priced reasonably well.
And that's the filter system I too use, Noah, because got it a long time ago from you guys. And you know, a lot of people don't realize that for video, especially for most normal lenses, 24 to 105, 1740, something that doesn't have that convex shape that some of the ultra wide angle lenses, that for video, a lot of people use a neutral density to get that frame rate to where they want it. So if you're into video, you know, these filters, and what they have is you buy the holder and then you buy a different size ring, 77 millimeter, 82 millimeter, 67. So you don't have to change your holder. You just got to buy the individual ring, which means for 10, 15 bucks, whatever the rings are, you know, you get to adapt it to all your lenses that you own.
Yeah, which is kind of super bright, but I have one of those in here too, because it's the same thing. This is
they come in different sizes. So
this is an 82 to 77. So it's just a little thin piece of metal, which will adapt one size down to another. So this is the 82 millimeter kit, which is the biggest they make. And then you can adapt that down to smaller sizes. So always buy a filter or filter kit for the largest filter size lens you have, whether that be 77 or 82. buy it for whatever that largest size lens is, and you can always go down to the smaller size filters with a step-up ring.
Noah, you're selling Breakthrough now, right?
We are selling Breakthrough. I've used their stuff personally. Supply has been an issue with Breakthrough, getting their filters and getting their products. So I don't promote them as much due to that reason, because it's hard to get. But if you do like Breakthrough, they make a great product. Their filters are really good. Supply has just been an issue for quite some time now. So I don't recommend them as often just because they're harder to get. But if there's something you're looking for, I'd be happy to work something up for you and see what we can do. We do still have some inventory available, but we haven't placed an order with them in quite some time just because their inventory has been very hard to come by. They also have a sister company called Colorado Tripod Co., which is under the same ownership. I've used some of their tripods. Those are really nice too, but I don't promote them, again, for the same reason, because you can't get them, which is unfortunate because I like them and they're really nice and they're good quality at a good price point, but their production is, I don't know what's going on, and I wish I knew what was going on, but there's definitely some problems with production and getting them out. So, but yeah, if you're looking for Breakthrough or Colorado, shoot me an email and we can work something out. I just tend not to promote them or publicize them because they're very hard to come by. So that was filters. Monitor calibrators was another thing, so I just grabbed one really quickly. This is the Datacolor Spider Pro. Again, you probably can't see it because it's so bright, but I just grabbed it here. Oh, it's probably not going to focus. Yeah, let me see if I put it a little bit closer. There we go. So this is their Spider X Pro monitor calibrator. This will work with Mac or with a PC. They have their Elite calibrator as well, which you can use to calibrate projectors and also cross calibrate multiple monitors. If you have multiple monitors going at once, you can very easily copy that calibration over to one or the other, which is nice. The Pro is perfect if you just have one monitor that you're editing off of or a laptop. It will do that as well. But if you're doing any printing at home, any extensive editing, submitting for any photo contests, or just editing for yourself, color accuracy is huge. And color calibrating your monitor at least once a month is what's recommended. I don't do it as often as I probably should, so I'm guilty as charged, but I always recommend it for other people, even though I don't do it as often as I should, maybe once every 6 months. But it's a relatively simple process to do. The software pretty much does all the work. All you do is plug this into the monitor itself. You'll bring up the software. It'll tell you where to place this. This will actually come unclipped and you would just hang this over your monitor. You can actually adjust the length of it. I can pull this out so it'll be longer. So you can adjust it and hang it to the length that you need it, which is really nice. So depending on how large your monitor is, you can adjust it for that. We're relatively, I would say we're frequently running promotions on these. So if you're not on our email lists, I definitely recommend signing up. You can just go to our website and sign up for our email list. That we run a lot of promotions on these. I think we have another one coming up probably in another week or two on this at a discount. So we do run discounts on these pretty often. So if you're looking to pick one up for yourself or for somebody else, they make a good gift as well for a photography friend or a relative who's into photography. I always recommend color calibrating your monitor for any purpose whatsoever. Even if you're not printing, it can be something that will help you out in the long run. So that was that. Let's see, a couple other things I just wanted to showcase real quick. Photography gloves, because it's getting cold out. I'm sure it's a little bit colder up here in Maine than it is down in New Jersey, but photo gloves will definitely be something that will become your friend if you want to shoot all winter long outdoors. What make these photography gloves is because you can actually remove the thumb and the index finger from the top, so you can have access to all your dials and all your buttons on your cameras and very quickly and easily change your settings while all the other fingers remain closed. They do have a nice kind of grippy texture to them as well. Again, I apologize for my virtual background here, but nice grippy texture to them as well. So you're going to be able to grip onto your camera. They come in a variety of sizes. I recommend going a size up. This is a size large and it fits me a little bit snug. So I typically wear an XL and I would say my hand is not that big. So definitely go a size up, if not two. when it comes to these gloves. They have a nice little kind of zipper pouch on the back here, which you can put like an SD card in, or a spare battery, or even a hand warmer to keep your hands even warmer. But these are the 4-layer photo gloves. Again, I apologize for this virtual background. Let me turn this off and see if that makes it better. There we go. So this will probably be better. So these are the 4-layer photo gloves, and I apologize for this glare. 4-layer photo gloves from ProMaster. I always recommend, again, going a size up on these, but these are going to be good. They keep your hands warm. I have a pair of these in my bag at all times. Even in the summer months, I just leave them in there just so I know that they're there. And when I take them off, I put them back in the bag. So they are something that stay in my bag at all times, in my photo bag.
Question,
and something.
Noah.
What was that?
Question.
Sure.
Are the gloves just men's sizes or women's also?
They're all unisex, so they're all one size. So even with a women's size, I still, again, recommend going a size up. They definitely do run small, and unfortunately there's really no size chart on them, so there's no way to like really measure your hand, and it doesn't really tell you which size. Okay, if your hand is this long, by this size. ProMaster unfortunately doesn't have that. ProMaster makes a lot of accessories, a lot of photo accessories, and I don't think they put the effort into designing or putting together a size chart for them. But if you have a pair of gloves now that fits you well, I would go a size bigger than whatever gloves you would typically wear, just to be safe. And
you guys, Hans has at least the 14-day return policy. So
yeah,
from you guys, you know,
yeah, that too.
You just say, hey, I want the next size up, you know.
Yep, we can do that as well. So these come in handy. Again, I always have a pair, especially in the winter. My hands get very cold very easily. So if I want to be out shooting, I make sure to wear those. And then the second to last thing I wanted to show just quickly is something that you guys have probably seen before because we've been promoting it a lot, which is this stool, which doesn't look like a stool right now. It doesn't really look like much of anything at all, but this will actually expand out to about 2 feet tall. It's about the size of my torso, and this is a nice kind of collapsible portable stool. If you've seen us at any events over the past year and a half, you've probably seen us have these there. If you're on our email list, you've probably seen us promote these relatively often. These, again, will make a great gift for yourself or for somebody else. Whether they're into photography or not. I personally use this more often for non-photography related purposes, whether I'm going camping or whatever it may be. Just need somewhere to sit. I just leave one of these in my car at all times. It's just there when I need it. So these are really nice, relatively inexpensive. They support up to 400 pounds. So while it is just plastic, it's very well designed and will support up to 400 pounds. So that is really cool. Makes a great gift, or just something for yourself. And again, folds down, relatively small and compact. Has a little hook on it that you can kind of carabine it onto a backpack or just carry it as a strap. So there's another quick thing I wanted to showcase. And then lastly, I was talking about my camera and the L bracket and everything on it. So there was some information that Ellen put down about mirrorless cameras. So I want to talk about that kind of to wrap things up here. Then we can jump into some questions. So really right now in the industry, we're seeing a big shift towards mirrorless technology, mirrorless cameras, mirrorless lenses across the board, from Nikon, from Canon, from everybody. They're really shifting all of their efforts to mirrorless. So much so where I don't know if we're going to see any high-end DSLRs coming out onto the market anymore. I still think there will be a market for some of the kind of entry-level DSLR packages like the Rebel series from Canon and the D3000 series from Nikon, but I don't think we're going to see a D860 or a D900 or a Canon 5D Mark V or a Canon 7D Mark III. I don't think we're going to see those cameras. I think Nikon and Canon's main focus right now is improving and expanding their mirrorless lineup, and for a lot of good reasons. Mirrorless cameras are smaller and lighter. This is a Sony mirrorless camera that I've had for about 3 years. When I switched over from Canon, Sony was really the only option for full frame mirrorless at that time. Had I have waited, I probably would have transitioned over to the Canon mirrorless, but just in the timing, Sony was really the only option. I wanted something smaller, more compact, more lightweight. This fits into the palm of my hand. I can still adapt my Canon lenses over to this, which I really like. So there's adapters out there so I can use my Canon lenses with this Sony camera, which was a big advantage for me as well at the time. Many of these cameras now have in-body stabilization, which is huge. And the electronic viewfinder with these cameras is really, I think, the biggest advantage, being able to see your exposure, see your depth of field, make corrections that you need to make before you even take your photo, and seeing what your image will look like before you even take it. I think is a huge advantage no matter what type of photography that you're doing. That has really been a huge asset to me, so much so that I never plan on switching back to a DSLR. And I'm sure most people who have transitioned over to mirrorless would probably tell you the same thing, that that electronic viewfinder is a huge advantage for anything that you do. And then talking about that L bracket, I do have one on here. This is also made by ProMaster, and it's relatively sleek. You can barely see it on here. It's just this little bit of black, but it also comes up here along the side as well. And this has an Arca Swiss plate built into it so that I can take this ball head here, loosen it up, drop my camera into it, try to do this one-handed here without dropping it, and lock it into place. So now it's in there securely, attached right onto it. This stays on my camera at all times. It also has one on the vertical as well. So you can drop this in here vertically. I can drop it in, lock it into place, and lock it in vertically as well, which is really great. I don't have to worry about actually adjusting the head so all the weight is actually hanging off the side of it. I can keep the weight centered over that ball head because of that L bracket. So an L bracket is a huge, huge advantage if you have an Arca Swiss compatible head. And it's something that I have not taken it off since I bought it, which has been almost 2 years now. It has just lived on my camera. It adds a little bit of extra grip onto the bottom too, so I can actually fit my pinky on there on the bottom, which is nice. So it adds a little bit of extra grip for people who have slightly larger hands, which is nice as well. So I think mirrorless cameras is where we're going to be headed. Whether people like it or not, I think these camera manufacturers have decided mirrorless technology is the way we're going. And there's, again, a lot of good reasons for that, a lot of advantages to mirrorless that can make it so advantageous to transition over. And if any of you guys were a part of the NJFCCC conference a couple of months ago now, I talked a little bit more in detail about some of those mirrorless camera capabilities and some of those features, which I think you recorded that, right, Roman? The mirrorless program that I did, is that up for people to go and watch somewhere?
No, that wasn't recorded.
That was not? Okay. Well, maybe we can do that again sometime if there's enough interest in it. So I have a whole program about mirrorless cameras and the advantages and some of the benefits. So if that's of interest to more people to do it again, I'd be happy to do that. But yeah, I think that was everything that I brought here with me, and some of the things that you guys were looking for.
Let's ask, anybody got any questions for Noah? Now's your shot. Now's your chance.
And it doesn't have to be just these products I talked about. It can be other products as well that you're curious about. I'm happy to really answer anything about gear or equipment. Could talk about it all day, frankly.
Noah, have you seen the new Nikon 6.2?
I have not. We received one shipment of them in late last week, which all went right back out the door to the customers. So we didn't open up any of them. I haven't personally seen one yet. My Nikon rep, unfortunately, right now is not able to travel, so he's not able to come to the stores and show them off. So I have not seen the Z6 II yet, or the Z7 II. I haven't even seen the R5 or the R6 yet from Canon, just because, again, Canon has limited how much their reps can travel, and all the cameras that we've gotten in have gone right back out the door to customers. So I haven't even gotten my hands on one of those. I'll probably be able to get my hands on an R6 soon. Those will become a little bit more readily available. But Nikon, I have not seen either yet, but it'll hopefully be soon. As the Z6s, we've pretty much gone through most of those pre-orders so far.
What do you think of the Canon RP?
So the RP is, I think, kind of an underrated camera. I don't think it got a lot of attention when it came out. However, I think it's really good for what is actually featured into it. It still has good resolution. It's smaller and more compact than the R itself, or the R5 or the R6. and it's priced really well. So if you're somebody who's looking to either transition into full frame or looking for kind of a mirrorless camera to use alongside your DSLR, I think that's like a nice transition point in between something kind of high end like the R5, but also a really nice step up from just a crop frame DSLR from Canon. That RP is going to be a nice compact system. It's going to have really nice image quality, nice dynamic range, good low light performance. Again, you have that electronic viewfinder as you do with all mirrorless cameras. So there are a lot of nice advantages to it, and the price point on it's really good. I think you can traditionally find that body for around $1,000 or so brand new. And for the features that are in it, I think that's really very nicely priced for what you're getting. So I do think the RP is a really nice camera and definitely underrated in Canon's lineup.
What's the lightest mirrorless camera that gives the best quality pictures?
Oh, well, that's a good question. So I mean, if you're going to look for the highest resolution possible, if you're talking in terms of resolution, the Sony a7R IV has 61 megapixels. That's the same form factor as this one. This is an a7R II. This has 40 megapixels, but the same form factor, the same size. I guess technically in terms of resolution, that's going to have the highest resolution and probably be the smallest, most compact body. But if you're looking just in terms of size and really want something small and compact, something like Olympus and their EM1 Mark III, granted that only has 21 or 20 megapixels, that's going to be a relatively small and compact body. But I would say the a7R IV is probably going to give you the best resolution with the most compact size because it does do 61 megapixels. There's nothing else that is that high. Typically, the highest you're going to get is around 40, 45 from Nikon and Canon. So I'd say that R4 from Sony is going to be probably the most compact, but also giving you the highest resolution possible. With that higher resolution, though, you do sacrifice a little bit of low light performance, a little bit of dynamic range, a little bit of speed. But if you're somebody who is really just in it for the higher resolution, if you're not photographing fast moving subjects, if you're not really doing any video work, it's perfect for high resolution.
No, I'm a nature photographer. I shoot a lot of birds, so that would be for me.
Yeah.
So I was looking at the Z6 II,
yep.
But it's a little heavy. I think it's 6 ounces heavier or something like that.
It's probably a little bit heavier. A lot of bird and wildlife photographers I am seeing switch over to Olympus because of the size. Their EM1 Mark III has very fast frame rates. Their lenses are super compact. So I am seeing more and more wildlife photographers switch over to Olympus because of their small and compact size. So that's definitely another option to consider. I probably wouldn't go with the a7R IV if you're shooting birds and wildlife. It's not going to really keep up, and the file size is going to be just weigh you down when it comes to editing and processing. So something with a little bit less resolution will probably do you well when it comes to nature photography and wildlife photography.
I have the Olympus and the 300 millimeter
Yep.
that I bought. It takes beautiful shots.
Yeah, that 300 from Olympus is incredible. They are coming out with a 150 to 400 relatively soon, before the end of the year. That's all I can say. It'll be announced before the end of the year, I should say, which is going to be a remarkable lens. That's been highly anticipated for a while, which is going to give you a 300 to 800 millimeter equivalent when you put it on that Micro Four Thirds size body. And it's the size from what it looks like of like a 100 to 400 from Canon, or like a 200 to 500 from Nikon. It's probably around that size, if not maybe a little bit smaller, but gives you up to an 800 millimeter equivalent at an f, I think 4.5. So pretty remarkable lens that they're coming out with relatively soon.
But what's the price range on that? Because on Facebook today, they were showing it as $7,000.
I wouldn't be surprised if it's that high. I haven't got official pricing yet. But I imagine it'll be quite pricey, just because it's a Pro Series lens. It's f4. It has a built-in teleconverter, and it's really, when you compare it to something like a Canon 200 to 400 or a Nikon 2 to 400, it's kind of on par with that, but you're going to get a lot more reach. So even if it is $7,000, it won't be, again, it's not cheap. I wouldn't be surprised if it's that high, but I haven't gotten any confirmation on pricing yet. But hopefully we'll have that soon. As an alternative, though, if you don't want to spend that much money, if it's going to end up being that much money, they came out with a 100 to 400 millimeter earlier this year, which is around $1,500, and it's still going to give you a 200 to 800 millimeter equivalent, just not the fast f4 fixed aperture, but still a really good alternative, still compact and lightweight, and a lot more inexpensive than that 150 to 400 is shaping up to be. Apparently, I did not know that was put out there today.
I don't know if it's official though.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised, but yeah, you can't say. I don't know. That's been the biggest thing with this lens is everybody's been wanting to know, what is the price point going to be? How expensive is it going to be? And they haven't given any indication of that whatsoever. So if it's $7,000, I think that's going to price a lot of people out of the market for it. And they'll probably see more sales on their 100 to 400, but I know that's been a highly anticipated lens for quite some time.
All right, anybody else have any questions for Noah?
Yeah, quick question on the Fuji XT4 versus the XT3.
Sure. As far as just in general, or just
in general, the difference between the two?
Yeah, I mean, well, the XT4 now has in-body stabilization, which is huge for Fuji. Other than the XH1, there was no other camera in their lineup that had in-body stabilization. You're getting better video performance now with that XT4. So if you're a video shooter, there's better video capabilities, larger battery. It's a brand new battery that they're using in the XT4 as well. So better battery performance. Those are kind of the main things that you'll see as a difference between the 3 and the 4. So not a huge increase in resolution, not a huge increase in image quality, but more physical differences within body stabilization, new battery, and some improved video performance as well. Those, I would say, are probably the 3 largest differences between the 3 and the 4.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
All right, anybody else? All right, well, thank you, Noah. Thank you, Hunts, for coming out tonight, and meeting with us. Like I said, it'll be recorded, so everybody can share it with their friends if they want to. And all right, you put it in the chat. There's email if you have any questions. So we've got it in the chat. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight. And if you want to see a night photography program by me on Saturday, 2 o'clock, join the NJFCC meetup, and we got a free program for you on Saturday. So thank you, everyone. And Ellen, you got anything else to add? She's probably...
No.
All right, good. All right.
Good night. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you.